I believe that life, as long as we have it, must be lived with passion, facing obstacles and accepting challenges. We must focus on what really matters, so that at the end we can say, like Neruda, I confess that I have lived. It is not just about existing, but about feeling that we really inhabit our history. That awareness, that moment of reflection, can be the spark that awakens our inner melody. Because each person has a unique music inside. We all have our own song, beautiful and distinct, that enriches the whole. That is what I mean, not to resign ourselves to a life full of noise, but to discover that harmony, prioritizing the essential, so that at the end we can truly say, I confess that I have lived. Hello Marias and Charlie. The question is simple and profound. Why do we repeat mistakes and trip over the same stone so many times? Maybe the answer is not up to your level. I think we do it for lack of humility. For me, humility is the most powerful virtue. To trust is not only to notice that something must change, but to assume it, to desire it and to believe that it is possible to achieve it. We have all experienced moments of overwhelm. Whether as teachers, parents, children, adolescents or adults, there are moments when we feel we can't go on any longer. We walk in an endless desert, looking for relief without finding it. Sometimes it seems like a night with no way out, until a fork appears, and we don't know where to go. Other times we are facing an abyss. I want to share something with you, with enthusiasm. If it resonates, it will also be transmitted to your students. When you experience those moments of doubt, pressure, confusion, or fear, remember that fragility is part of what is human. Denial is arrogance. It is possible to be extraordinary without being perfect. Embracing our darkness, instead of rejecting it, is the first act of true love for who we are with courage. It is to keep walking even if we have no clear map. We are guided by principles, a deep faith, a sincere conviction that what we do makes sense. That drives us, a confidence that life, sooner or later, will reveal a path. It is not what we are that holds us back, but what we believe we are not. If only we knew the beauty that lies within each of us, in every being, in everything around us, my goodness, how much we could achieve. We all have enormous potential inside us, but we often don't see it. Mario, if we don't see it, does that mean it's not there? At night, especially on a dark night, how well you can see the stars. During the day, aren't they there? Of course they are, it's just that sometimes we need to touch that deep night to see clearly. How well St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila understood this. It is there, in the darkness, that we begin to connect with the deepest. It is that trust in life that allows us to hear the call and take a step forward. When a person, in the face of uncertainty and fear, decides not to shrink, but to accept the challenge, something changes. In spite of fear and darkness, he believes that there is beauty, that there are hidden diamonds, and he dares to search. It is proven, in less than 4 hours, genes begin to activate. New neuronal connections are formed, those dendritic spines discovered by Cajal begin to multiply. Neurons connect, as we have done today, between invisible networks full of value. We become more agile, wiser. Even stem cells in the brain ventricles migrate to the hippocampus, which regulates fear and produces dopamine, confidence, accelerated learning. This is called neurogenesis. It increases blood flow in the prefrontal area of the brain. We think better, decide more clearly, and creativity expands. We see more. Hi Mark, I'm Maria. As an educator, I feel that motivation is key to learning. You mentioned 6 fundamental motivations for any person, could you tell us about them? The first human motivation is to feel that we are on solid ground, to have security, to know that we have some control over what happens. The second is to feel seen, recognized, valued, to have a sense of status or relevance. The third motivation is to belong, to arrive at a place and feel that we are part of something, that we are not excluded or marginalized. The fourth is challenge. Because, even if we are attracted to the comfort zone, if there are no challenges, Maria, life becomes monotonous. We may enjoy rest for a while, but then it suffocates us. Challenge wakes us up. The fifth motivation is to grow, to improve, to progress. And the sixth is to contribute to the well-being of others, to have a purposeful life. These 6 motivations are fundamental. If a person concentrates all his energy on adventure, risk, discovery, but neglects his need for security, he can get into foolish situations. There is a natural wisdom that balances these forces and keeps us in a sensible line. But if one of them takes over too much, internal conflicts can arise. Maria asked me, what is the difference between a door and a threshold? Let's see, is anyone having a bright day and is up for an answer? Well, someone says, the door is physical. Exactly. And the threshold is not always. Very good. What else? The threshold has something that the door doesn't, a special quality. What's that? Non-return. Interesting, isn't it? If I cross a door, I can go back. But a threshold, once crossed, transforms. It takes you to another place. It implies uncertainty. The essential thing about a threshold is that it opens you up to another world. You face the unknown. You may not know yet, but you could learn. You don't know, but you might come to know. That's where true human strength lies. Because what a threshold does is reveal what was hidden. Uncover what was veiled. And there are spaces in the mind, the low consciousness, where invisible scripts are at work that condition how we see life. And it is important to feel them as you feel them. We all have a way of describing ourselves. If I think about how I used to see myself, I would say, Mario is a shy guy. A guy who doesn't feel comfortable with certain things. That's how he used to tell me my story. I myself thought I was ugly, awkward, limited. That was my narrative. But the problem is not having a story. The real problem is when the story has you. That is, you live trapped in that script. One day I started to cross a threshold. And in doing so, something changed. I started to rewrite my story. When I say I was deeply shy, many don't believe me. But it's true. There are still unresolved issues, and it doesn't matter. The important thing is that I am on the path. The threshold transforms the story because it awakens capacities in you that you didn't know you had. You discover that you are more than you thought you were. That you can do things you never imagined. Because we have incredible inner resources, powerful intuition, expanded intelligence, vivid creativity. The ability to learn is accelerated. All that awakens the threshold. Because when you cross it, you are changing as a person. You are the same being, but you are no longer the same way of being or being in the world. It's like a worm that becomes a butterfly. You are both the same being, but your way of being in life is completely different. For the worm, flying is impossible. But the potential to fly is already within him. It only appears when it closes itself in its cocoon, dissolves in its dark night, and from there is born transformed. That is the power of the threshold. It takes your mind to the limit. It is not madness, not exaggeration, but profound demand. Because the brain is comfortable. If you give it an easy way out, it will not look for a solution. For transformation to occur, you must push it further. And when that happens, something awakens. You see it in the center of the brain, the limbic system. That's where emotion lives. And that's where that inspirational dissatisfaction is born. That voice that says, my life can go further. I was not born to fly like a sparrow, but like an eagle, or a seagull. And if it didn't call you, you wouldn't feel that emptiness. That's why you need a what for, a deep desire. A vision. The vision you long for. I want to sail, to leave the desert and find the sea. Why? Because I want it, because I sense it. Because I can imagine how my life could be transformed if I cross that threshold. And in relation to this search for hidden beauty, someone asked, how to help children find their hidden beauty. There is a very powerful exercise I have done with groups of adults. I divide the class in two. In the middle I take them outside and explain the following. When you come in, look at your partner as if he or she has a problem. The ones inside don't know any of this. Those who come in act on that instruction. They just look at each other, for 2 minutes. It's not easy, but they do it. Then, I take the group that received the first instruction out again and give them another one. Now, when you go back in, don't look at them as if they have a problem, look at them as if they are the problem. When they repeat the exercise, again just looking at each other, something powerful happens. When they finish, he asks the group that was being observed, did you notice anything different between the first and second time? The answer is immediate, yes. The first time I felt closeness, connection, even tenderness. The second, just coldness. They looked at me, but it was as if they didn't see me. What I mean is that, just as a tree does not decide who to give oxygen to, we can also give a look, a presence, a welcome. Even if the student or the person in front of you is difficult. That is the path to fulfillment. It is not easy, I know. But every time we look for greatness in the other, something inside us is also transformed. And as for resilience, about how to help others not to fall apart, first you need to understand what it really is. Because it is not hardness, it is not coldness. It is the ability to get back on your feet while remaining sensitive. The concept of resilience is profound and often misunderstood. It comes, like elasticity, from the world of metallurgy. It is important to distinguish between them. Resilience in metals is the ability to resist without deforming. Elasticity is the ability to return to its original shape when pressure ceases. In the human world, we speak of resilience as that inner strength that allows a person not to break, not to fall apart, when life shakes him or her hard. How is this cultivated? The first step is to recognize that human beings constantly interpret what happens to us. And that interpretation is everything. If I see a mistake as proof that I'm a failure, then it's not the mistake that sinks me, it's me who enslaves me. That is why it is vital to teach children, youth, and adults to interpret falls as part of the path, as fertile ground for growth. Second, we must understand that success and failure share the same path. They are not opposite paths, but stations on the same journey. Failure is not an identity, it is not who you are. It is an event, an occurrence that happens, so what happens? It does not define you. Third, and this is perhaps the most delicate, there are moments when everything breaks down, where the ground disappears under your feet. And there, no matter how many techniques you know, no matter how much mental strength you have, it is not enough. I have listened to wise men from many cultures, and when everything collapses, the only way out is to open up to the inexplicable. To accept that there is a greater mystery, something that escapes our logic and yet sustains. Instead of fighting against the incomprehensible, to humbly surrender to it. That is the true root of deep resilience, surrender, not as defeat, but as trust. And regarding science, especially neuroscience, and how to apply it to education, today we know thanks to researchers like Richard Davidson that the way we perceive life has a brain basis. But we also know that the brain is malleable. And that is powerful. It means that, with the right experiences, with the right emotional environment, we can change the way a child deals with frustration, difficulty, or doubt. That's the gift of neuroscience, confirming what we cultivate in the classroom, at home, in life, actually transforms the brain. And, with it, it transforms life. In the field of neuroplasticity, one of the most important current references is a Spaniard, Alvaro Pascual León, a Valencian who is today considered the #1 in Europe in this field. His research confirms something essential, that with intelligence, will and practice, we can literally mold our brain. This idea not only inspires, it empowers. Today we know that the left prefrontal area, located above the left eye and just behind the frontal bone, is where our positive emotions reside. And the most encouraging thing is that this area can be trained. Strengthening it not only improves our mood, it also regulates fear, sadness, and hopelessness. How do you stimulate this region? First, by developing the habit of looking for the positive. It's not about denying the ugly or the difficult, but about not getting stuck there. Learning to see the light even in the midst of the shadow. Second, with something as everyday as a smile. Studies with functional magnetic resonance imaging show that when we smile, even if it is not entirely genuine at first, we activate that area of the brain. A sincere smile, even a shy one, has great transformative power. Third, organize our life. Renowned cardiologist Valentin Fuster, a world leader in his field, shares how he spends a few minutes each morning planning his day. This routine of clarity and purpose also strengthens our left prefrontal area. Fourth, physical exercise. No need for a gym, walking briskly, moving, getting active. All this stimulates the production of a key protein, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which favors the birth of new neurons and strengthens neuronal connections. Fifth, a sense of humor. Fundamental. Laughing, enjoying, finding the funny even in the unexpected, is a powerful way to nourish our mind and spirit. And last but not least, there is the inner life. Making space for ourselves to stop, to enter into silence, to breathe. That silence is not empty, it is full of meaning. That stillness is nothing, it contains all possibilities. In that space of recollection, the mind, which sometimes seems like a cage of crickets, begins to quiet down. In that silence, new ways of seeing, thinking and feeling are born. And there, right there, the real change begins. In Seville, ICAS, art, embrace, and sometimes, that thought that does not stop and drives you crazy. That's when you have to stop, silence the noise and enter the world of silence. Today, thanks to the studies of Richard Davidson, a world eminence in emotional neuroscience we know that this pause transforms, it activates the left prefrontal area, improves mood and, surprisingly, strengthens the immune system. This area of the brain is the one that protects us, from bacteria, viruses, and also from negative thoughts. But there is a big difference between moving with agility and living on autopilot. Genuine intelligence, that which seeks to understand the truth of things, requires pause, reflection. It is like the woodcutter who, if he does not sharpen his axe, no matter how hard he swings, he will not be able to cut through the log. It is not that the logs are harder, it is that we do not sharpen our tools. Our culture often sees silence, introspection and inner life as a waste of time. But that pause helps us not to end up in a place we never wanted to go. How many times, if we had stopped to think, to feel, to listen to ourselves, we would have chosen another path? That is why it is vital to train ourselves to value self-knowledge, to understand ourselves. That is where true growth begins. Therein lies the hope that, no matter what happens, there is always a path worth traveling. Even in the middle of the desert, like this uncertain time, with its economic and social crises, if we know that it will not last forever, we go through it with a different attitude. It is like the night that we know will give way to dawn. Like the winter that we know will lead to spring. It does not deny the difficulties, but it changes their color. And that attitude transforms everything: our health, our attention, our ability to learn. That's why attitude and cooperation are key to reducing daily stress. But of course, getting out of the comfort zone requires a very deep commitment. Because outside are the fears, the panic of the unknown, of ambiguity, of not being in control. Our proverb reflects it: a bird in the hand is better than 100 in the air. There is a part of us that clings to the known, even if it does us no good. Getting out of it implies a leap of faith. Because you know what you are leaving, but not what you will find. In my experience, you only get out for two reasons. One, when you hit rock bottom, when there is no other option and you discover your strength in necessity. And two, when something or someone inspires you deeply, makes you believe that there is a more beautiful, bigger, fuller place than the one you inhabit today. And to get there, you only need one thing: an attitude open to growth. And the courage to keep walking. When we look at life from the perspective of wonder, of depth, of intention, everything changes. This journey we share, this journey that sometimes seems messy, full of curves, obstacles and silences, actually has a greater meaning than what we can see with our eyes. Because life is not only what happens, but also, and above all, how we decide to interpret it. Each person, each one of us, is a universe in motion. We carry within us immense possibilities, resources we never even imagined we had. But we often live as if we were less than we really are. We tell ourselves limiting stories, repeat old scripts, and let the stones along the way become excuses for not moving forward. However, life, when lived with courage and awareness, always invites us to more. To expand. To flourish even in the middle of winter. And here is one of the keys: it is not a matter of not falling, but of knowing how to get up with more wisdom. To understand that resilience is not coldness or hardness, but the ability to maintain sensitivity even in the midst of pain. To sustain tenderness while walking among debris. To trust, even if we have no proof, that there is always something beyond the threshold. To cross it, that is the brave act. Because a threshold is not just a door, it is a point of no return. It's choosing to grow, even though you know you'll never be the same again. But that's precisely the beauty of it: that change reveals you. It transforms you. It awakens you. And what does it awaken in you? It awakens the melody that inhabits you, that inner music that is yours alone. Because we all have a song. We all have a song. And life makes sense when you dare to listen to it, to play it, to share it. When you decide that your passage through this world will not be just another one, but one with soul, with purpose, with impact. And if you feel fear along the way, don't run away from it. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the messenger that tells you, there's your growth. Be grateful for its presence, but don't put it at the wheel. Accept that uncertainty is part of the process. That the dark night also has stars. That sometimes, only in the silence, in the emptiness, can you see the essential. That is why it is so necessary to stop. To pause. To breathe. To sharpen the axe before hitting the trunk. To look inside ourselves. Because the real power is not in doing more, but in being more aware of what we do, why we do it, what we live for. And when that awareness awakens, so does compassion. We learn to look at others not as problems, but as mysteries. Not as burdens, but as beings full of stories, of wounds, of light. Like breathing trees, like brothers and sisters on the road. Teaching this to children, to young people, to ourselves, is perhaps the greatest act of love we can offer. To look with tenderness. To listen with presence. To accompany without judgment. To give oxygen, as a tree does. Simply being. And yes, this world is full of noise, of distractions, of demands. But it is also full of beauty. You just have to know how to stop and look at it. Because what you look at, grows. And if you choose to look at the beautiful, the good, the noble, that is what you will nurture in yourself and in others. In the end, life is not measured only by accomplishments, not only by titles, not only by numbers. It is measured by the intensity with which you have loved, by the depth with which you have felt, by the mark you have left on the hearts of others. It is measured by your ability to say, like Neruda, I confess that I have lived. Not simply existed, but lived. So go on. Walk. Dare. Even if you don't see the whole map. Even if the night is dark. Because your story is still being written. And the best, may still be yet to come. Translated with deepel.com, free version. Today I don't come to give you answers, but to ask you questions that awaken you. I don't want to offer magic formulas or empty shortcuts. I want, rather, for us to sit together, as if we were having a sincere conversation, with a cup of coffee in hand, in that corner where the soul dares to speak, and look within. Today we don't just close a chapter, today we open a possibility. What if today were the day you decide to stop living on automatic? What if this were the moment when your soul, that part of you that has always known what it wants, dares to speak louder than your fears? Because if one thing has been made clear in everything we've shared, it's that it's not just about existing. It's about living. About inhabiting your story, giving voice to your truth, walking barefoot through the halls of your consciousness and saying, I am here, I am me, and I want something more. Look, there's only one life. And although it sounds like a cliché, it's a truth we sometimes forget. We get lost in the rush, in obligations, in absurd comparisons, in the networks that distract us, in other people's expectations that weigh more than our own dreams. And without realizing it, we postpone joy. We extinguish the spark. We survive, when what we really want is to fly. But today, I want you to allow yourself to stop, breathe, and listen. Because inside you, there is a melody that wants to play. And it is unique, unrepeatable, irreplaceable. Your story has weight. It has meaning. It has beauty, even in the broken parts. Especially in the broken parts. Because where you were hurt, you were also transformed. Because pain didn't come just to break you, but to open you. And although at the moment it seems impossible to see, each fall has also been a door. A door to awakening. A door to compassion. A door to your true self. No one else can live your path. No one else can write your pages. No one else has your gaze, your scars, your way of loving, your way of rising up. And that makes you indispensable. That makes you powerful. That makes you valuable beyond any external measure. And I know that perhaps you still have doubts. That there are still days when your soul weighs on you, when you don't understand why what happened happened. When the night seems endless. But I want you to remember this, even in the deepest darkness, the seed lives on. And what seems like the end is often just the beginning of something greater. So don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid to start over. Life doesn't wait for those who doubt forever. It waits for the brave. For those who, even in fear, dare. For those who, even with scars, walk. For those who decide that their past will not dictate their destiny. Today I invite you to that. To choose yourself. To give yourself a new chance. To look in the mirror and recognize the strength within you. To remember that you are not alone, that we are all in this dance of learning, falling, getting up, and continuing. And that as you do so, you are already inspiring others without even knowing it. Because the simple act of not giving up is already an act of luminous rebellion. Because looking forward with hope is already poetry. And because deciding to live with intention is already revolution. It doesn't matter how long it took. It doesn't matter how many times you've strayed. What matters is that you are here. That you are awake. That you are ready. So open your arms. Let go of what weighs you down. Walk lightly. And above all, remember, you are not here by chance. You are here because you have something to contribute. You are here because the world needs your truth. And when you feel yourself faltering, come back to yourself. Come back to your center. Come back to that spark that once ignited when you dreamed fearlessly. Because that spark still lives. And it's waiting for you to give it permission to burn again. Thank you for coming this far. Thank you for allowing yourself to feel, to question, to expand. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a more authentic, more conscious, more you life. Confess that you have lived. But above all, dare to live what you haven't yet dreamed of. And now, go out, breathe deeply, look to the sky, and begin. Stay a little longer. Not out of commitment, not out of routine. Stay because perhaps, right now, this message was what your soul was waiting to hear. Because sometimes it's not that we don't know what we need, it's that we need a space to remember it. And this is that space. A corner where the noise of the world fades away and the only thing that matters is that inner voice that, despite everything, keeps whispering, keep going. Because you and I know it's been difficult. That not everything has been as you dreamed. That life has shaken you up more times than you can count. And yet, here you are. Breathing. Trying. Feeling. Living. That's already a victory. We live in a culture that measures success by visible results, by numbers, by tangible achievements. But who measures the number of times you didn't give up? Who applauds the internal battles you silently won? Who celebrates with you those days when getting out of bed was an epic feat? I do it. And I do it because I know what it costs. I know what it means to keep going when everything inside you screams at you to stop. And I also know that every step you take, however small it may seem, is gigantic on the map of your evolution. That's why I want you to take a moment to honor yourself. Not as an act of ego, but as an act of recognition. Because only those who have faced the storm know what it means to find calm. Only those who have hit rock bottom understand the magnitude of returning to the surface. And you have done it. Maybe not once, but many times. Maybe you are in that process right now. Maybe you're feeling like your strength is fading, that the horizon is fading, that your dreams seem distant. But listen to me, all of this is part of the process. Transformation doesn't come wrapped in glitter. It comes with tears, with doubts, with sleepless nights, with necessary renunciations, with unanswerable questions. But it also comes with flashes of clarity, with moments of inexplicable peace, with magical encounters, with deep connections, with the certainty that you're returning home, to you. I'll tell you 1,000 times, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest with yourself. Allow what you feel. Make space for your truth. And walk, even slowly, even with fear, even if you feel your way. Because every sincere step you take brings you closer to the life you deserve. And no, I'm not talking about a life without pain. I'm talking about a life with meaning. A life in which every experience, even the difficult ones, becomes part of your art. Because you are art. You are history. You are a force that is reborn. You are a light that never goes out. And if you're asking yourself, but how do I keep going when everything seems uphill, let me tell you this. Take it one day at a time. One breath at a time. One intention at a time. You don't need to have everything figured out to begin. You just need to take the next step. Because that step paves the way. Because that step is a declaration. Because that step is a promise to your soul. Do you know what's beautiful about all of this? That every time you choose to move forward, you are writing a new ending to a story others thought was lost. You are breaking chains. You are challenging patterns. You are proving that pain can be alchemized. That chaos can give way to order. That ruins can be the place where something new blooms. And you are not alone. You never have been. Right now, there are thousands, maybe millions, of people feeling the same way you are. Searching for meaning. Yearning for peace. Longing to belong. And that search unites us. So when you feel disconnected, remember this, every emotion you feel, someone else has felt it too. Every shadow you face, someone else has walked it too. You are not weird. You are not broken. You are alive. You are in process. You are exactly where you need to be to take your next leap. Because life is not a straight line. It's a spiral that invites us to return to the same points, but from a new awareness. It's a dance between what we were and what we are meant to be. And every twist, every turn, every fall, teaches us something. So please, don't beat yourself up for what you didn't know before. Don't blame yourself for the times you chose out of fear. You were doing the best you could with what you had. And now you know more. Now you feel more. Now you are more. And that is enough. Thank you for watching and listening to this video. We hope you liked it and that you take away something valuable. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Turn on the notification bell so YouTube will notify you when we upload a new video, where we can sit and reflect, pray, or just be. This personal sanctuary is a reminder that the divine is not far away, but within and around us.